Talk about checking off the boxes. A conversation this morning reminded me that it's easy to get caught up in checking off the boxes. I was saying to this friend of mine, as a man, it's easy for me to compartmentalize, and within that compartmentalization, I want to check off things. Each day I get up, I have a list of things to do. I like checking them off. I think the difficulty between that kind of discipline and wanting to get things done and how we handle everything else. When I was a young man, I wanted a car, and I wanted a this, and I wanted a that, and I wanted to be married. The problem for many people is we check that box and we don't go back to it in relationships, or we don't go back to it in gaining more education in the field that we're in, or walking in that. The trap is to check off all the boxes. I was never a good list maker, and then when I became a list maker, I got caught in the trap of checking off those boxes. I taught time management. I worked in time management. I wanted to squeeze every bit of juice out of that fruit called time. And the problem was I missed out on a lot of good stuff. And I think one of the traps for believers is to still want to check off a lot of boxes. And I'm not saying your daily discipline or your regimen or those things are unimportant, but I think when we begin to attribute life to a business perspective many, many years ago, and I regret saying this, I said, I wish my life was like business, because business is easy to relegate. Business is easy to adjust to. Business is easy to take care of. All you have to do is you do inventory, you sell something, you replace something, you manage people, all those things. Life isn't like that. When it comes to family, and it comes to friends, and it comes to people that enter into our life. One of the things I do in my own life is I actually have what I call planned spontaneity. And what does that mean? That means if you call me up and say, hey, can we go out for coffee? I'll say I'm available at 2 o'clock. And that time, if I don't use it for visiting with a friend or being on the phone, I utilize it in another method. Sometimes it's just to rest. But I think the trap with all the boxes is, if you're a list maker, I want to share this tip with you. What are your priorities? Not your list. What are your priorities? For me, it has to do with, my time spent with God, my wife, my family, my friends, my workplace. And once I establish my priorities, then I'm able to begin to make a list to correspond to those priorities. And some of those priorities to me would have appeared on a list before, but when I really look at it, they're not priorities for me. They're things that I put on a list and wanted to get those things done. Not everything that we want to do is what we're supposed to do. And not everything that we don't do was something that we weren't supposed to do. I don't attach guilt to it or remorse or anything like that. I simply say that for each one of us, these times in life are things that we need to work on. So if you haven't established priorities in your life, it's the beginning of the year, I'm not talking about resolution, begin to examine what your priorities are before you make a list. Because it's really easy to go, I'm always reminded of Christmas Vacation. I got to do my homework, and I got to wash the dog, and I got to go, all those things. We can always find something to do. But until we establish what our priorities are, and our priorities can change over time. My priority to spend time with God may be minimized on a day as opposed to another day. My time with my wife may change just based on circumstances. But until we establish priorities, it will be really tough to establish, lists of things to be done under those priorities. So take some time, think about what your priorities look like, and begin to walk in those priorities and begin to see value increase where you are. Begin to see your time with God become better, your time with your family, your spouse, your friends, all that kind of time. Because when we make priorities, then we begin to become intentional towards those priorities. Thank you. God bless you.